Hey guys, welcome back to yet another edition of Cover One Buffalo. As always, I'm your host Aaron Quinn. With me, as always, is my good host Nate Geary. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. The weather's turned, man. It's almost golf. It's almost golf season. Almost. It's not.
Yeah, I'm
Not for
starting to get a
me.
little bit of color just from all
I
the yard work my wife's
I
had
did
me.
see that. I don't.
Yeah,
I work all my jobs indoors. So.
yeah, yeah. Well, get a wife. Once you have a wife, you'll be outdoors hauling stuff
Oh, no doubt
around.
about it. Yeah.
Don't rush it. Uh, So before we get into our show tonight, I'm pretty excited about this. Now that the draft's over, we're going to talk about positional groups, break them down. Tonight we're starting with the quarterback position, obviously the hottest topic. Seems to be every year that we want to talk about who's going to be this guy leading the team. Before we get into that, though, I just want to take a second and let everybody know, as always, you can find us on all your social media accounts by searching Cover One. You can find us on iTunes, anywhere you get your podcasts. Go search for the Cover One Buffalo podcast. Give us a like and subscribe. We're doing this every Wednesday. You can find us on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click the little bell. It'll notify you when we go live. Or if you follow us on Twitter, you'll get us our live notifications there as well. Do all that. And then, Nate, you want to tell us about the app?
Yeah, the app's awesome, and I was actually just showing somebody the other day how awesome it was to download it on their phone for them. It's great because if you're hanging out at home and looking for something to do, or even on a weekend or look for something to listen to, you're going to get notifications pop up on your phone when new content drops, when new podcasts drop. It's a great little app to have, especially because it's free to have and free to download on the Apple iTunes store and of course the Android as well.
Yeah, and if you aren't familiar with the content that we put out here at Cover One, definitely go over to the YouTube channel or cover1.net and check out the Tremaine Edmonds post-draft video that Eric did breaking that down. I mean, a lot of people do highlight videos and stuff, but Eric really tells you a lot about his strengths, weaknesses, and how he'll be used for the Bills now that he is a member of our team and an asset for us. So great video. I know I'll probably hit that one up 10, 15 times here waiting for the season to start. If you are a premium subscriber, we're adding stuff all the time for premium subscribers to make that as valuable as possible. It's already a great value. Go to the Cover One page. You can check out the different tiers for premium subscribers. But I don't know if you saw this, Nate. Eric just added Josh Allen. It's like 140 clips of the all 22 video of different plays from Josh Allen. And he's going through and adding different sections like that. So if you're a premium subscriber, that's a great value add. That's stuff that I search all over for. And he's got it all in a nice clean database that you can just play through each play or go find specific plays. Really good stuff. Did you check that out?
I haven't yet. I will be checking out the new Josh Allen stuff very soon, though, because I've got a lot of work to do myself on trying to break out different parts of his game because, especially this time of year, going into the summer, you can sort of find a tendency to run out of stuff to talk about going into the season. So I've got a lot of plans on breaking his game down into individual segments and doing it that way on a weekly and a bi-weekly phase. So the Josh Allen stuff is great, but just being a premium member is in and itself getting all the information at your fingertips to sort of, especially if you're the kind of person that likes to be their own scout and likes to check out all the information on their own and really kind of do their own homework. Cover1.net and the premium membership is a place you got to be. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. And so Josh Allen's a good segue into our conversation here, right? Because we're talking about quarterbacks, and obviously Bills trade up a couple weeks ago, moved to number 7, take their guy. A lot of people, your boy Albright had it all along. This was their guy. They've been targeting. A lot of people said, Terry Pagula fell in love with this guy. I think everyone seems to really love him. Maybe the top of their board. That's still uncertain. Albright says he was always at the top. So it's their guy. He is the future. Get into it a little bit for us, because I know you got some takes on this. How soon is our future in Buffalo?
So I do have lots of takes, and I will have all of those said takes written down on paper that you can check out at the website. It'll be up tomorrow morning. So I've broken it down into 4 main categories of why I believe Josh Allen starts more games in 2018 than AJ McCarron or Nathan Peterman, and you can make your decision on which of those 2 you believe will have the second most starts. I do believe AJ McCarron's going to have the opportunity right out of camp to be the starting quarterback of this team. I think where I get sold that Allen could likely be the day 1 starter, I do think that there is a a very decent possibility that he ends up as the day one starter. And a lot of people might think that's crazy. I, for one, probably would have thought it was crazy before drafting him, but circumstances change your outlook on a player. And the circumstance here currently in Buffalo is that there aren't a lot of great talent. There isn't a lot of great talent at the quarterback position. AJ McCarron, between the both of them, have very few starts in this league. Not on top of that, neither of them boast the type of core skills that you're really looking for in an everyday starter in the NFL. So, yeah. Having said that, I think it would probably be smart to go through those four things and really kind of give you an idea of where my head is at and why I believe that Allen is that guy that's going to play the most this year. And maybe, in my opinion, give this team the best opportunity to win on Sunday, which is going to be the biggest factor, I think, of all of it.
All right, so give us your first one real quick. Let's break it down, slice it up, and let's talk it out here.
So for me, the first, point, the first thing you got to talk about on why I believe that he's going to see a lot of time this year as the starter is a lack of nuanced route runners at the wide receiver position. And you could even throw tight end in there as well. They don't have guys that are precise, rhythm-based, the kind of guys that wow you at the line of scrimmage. And maybe I'll use Stevie Johnson as an example because I think he's one of the more nuanced route runners to play here in Buffalo. But really in the league in itself, he's sort of, I don't want to say started the trend, but he was one of those guys that was doing it at the line of scrimmage without putting his hands on a defensive back and without defensive backs being able to get their hands on him, even though he's not necessarily a large guy, a strong guy, a fast guy. They don't have guys that know how to work the route tree. And this is an offense in the Eric Perkins system that is more concept driven rather than route driven. So you're talking about specific concepts, the smash concept, the double post, things like that on each side of the line of scrimmage. And in the Erhard Perkins system, what you see a lot of are wide receivers lining up in multiple spots, tight ends lining up at wide receiver, running backs lining up at wide receiver, trips, and kind of being able to not change the fundamentals of your offense based on which player is lining up in which position. So having said that, and knowing that they don't have that guy that's that route runner and can be good in timing-based offenses, I look at both McCarron and Nathan Peterman, and I see two guys that absolutely need that type of player to be successful. They need a offense that is going to be based on footwork, timing, and rhythm. If not, to me, neither of those guys have a very large use to me in this league. I think AJ McCarron can be a starter in this league and a West Coast style offense, a style of offense that requires him to get the ball out quickly. Same with Nathan Peterman. The offense here last year really suited Peterman. That's why you saw the change. But I worry that the offense this year isn't going to suit those strengths quite the same as it did last year.
Now, here's a question then for you. So it's like kind of, to me, as a guy that never played quarterback, kind of what's the chicken or the egg here, right? When you talk about nuanced route runners and needing that for McCarron or Peterman to be successful and that it's important to this offense. But at the same time, Josh Allen struggled, at least all reports are they struggled with anticipation and making those throws with anticipation. So, is that something that I know that he can make the plays when they break down or hit guys and maybe not the most accurate way. And that plays to Kelvin Benjamin's strengths. But if he's not able to make the throws that the offense requires and playing with some anticipation, is that maybe hurt his ability to start early?
So I think we can talk about the next prong while we also talk about this, because it is based on the Erhard Perkins system. It's a very simple system in terms of terminology. And as I mentioned, it lumps concepts together in play calls and in audibles rather than specific route combos or specific duties of specific positions, the X or the Y. And like a lot of offense, you can hear a play that is, 20 words long that has specific duties for each guy. That is not what this system's about. This is a much more simple system to not only audible at the line of scrimmage, but to relay from quarterback to wide receiver, quarterback to running back, quarterback to offensive line. So I see that, and you talk about the nuanced route running and can he throw with anticipation? I think anticipation, a lot of it comes from confidence, that you will throw with more anticipation when you are confident in what you're seeing and where you assume players are going to be. Now, is he going to have that right away? No, of course not. But I think he will have more confidence in this system than he would going to, say, Oakland with John Gruden, who has a super, super verbal like the verbiage in that offense is very, very ruthless. It asks a lot of their quarterback to not only memorize, but then to regurgitate and get out in a very quick and efficient manner. And that is not going to be the case here. And I think that helps Allen. But at the same time, the anticipation is definitely a good point. And I look at the other two guys, and you look at Nate Peterman, and he does throw really well with anticipation. That really doesn't have a lot to do with confidence. It has to do with need. He's gotten here because he doesn't have the arm strength that Allen has. Right. And Allen can sometimes sort of overcome those anticipation problems with incredible arm strength.
Yeah, he tends to wait a second longer because his arm can get it there.
So they don't have route runners. What they have are guys, and two in particular that come to mind. And obviously Kelvin Benjamin's that one for me. And I think Jeremy Curley is an interesting guy because maybe he's your most nuanced route runner. But Zay Jones is another guy that I think does a really nice job of high pointing the football. So you have two wide receivers who right now are going to be your 1 and 2, with Curley likely being your third, that are go up and get it type receivers. And there are going to be situations where the ball needs to come out in a situation that I don't know that McCarron or Peterman are going to feel comfortable enough with their lack of arm strength to get out and throw across their body as they're running out of bounds. Just situations outside of the scope of the offense. I think that's where Allen brings the elements that just McCarron and Peterman don't.
Yeah. So one thing, as you were saying that about the system here, I also think a nice thing about Josh Allen, I've definitely knocked him a lot, but I think a positive about him is that he did play in a pro style system. He wasn't one of those guys that's staring at the sidelines waiting for cards and pictures to come in. So even though it's a simplified verbiage system, I think having the experience over the last few years to huddle up, command a huddle, those things, that's something he doesn't even have to learn, right? That's something that a lot of these college quarterbacks, they've never even gotten a team in a huddle and talked to him. So he's got that. He's been able to make audibles at the line of scrimmage, like stuff that a lot of these guys don't have the capability or confidence from their coach to do. He's already done that. So does that give him a leg up as a rookie? Maybe not against the other two guys here, but as a rookie, does that give him a leg up jumping into a pro style system?
There's no question. There's no question. And we know a couple of the areas that he really struggles the most: footwork consistency, being on the right platform to deliver the ball. And a lot of his inaccuracy comes from him not being level, not being balanced when he's throwing the football, and not having the proper gait. But when you talk about, his readiness to command an NFL offense and in a huddle, I think you're spot on with that. I mean, you talk the last few years, guys like Patrick Mahomes, that was a big issue for a lot of people, is can he play under center? Josh Allen can do that.
You're hearing about Baker fumbling snaps at practice already.
Right. Not only that, and on top of, fumbling snaps obviously is one issue, but obviously those are things that are going to kind of play out through the training camp process and the practice process and everything else that goes into that. But the idea that he's going to be able to come in and command an offense, and I think not only on top of that, it's so important to note about the Erhardt-Perkins system, the terminology. It doesn't get talked enough about, I think, enough, because a guy that's coming from the college system, the biggest hurdle for these guys is understanding the playbook and the terminology. It's what caused Jared Goff to look so darn awful in Hard Knocks and in that time that he was playing his rookie season. He comes in the next year, he's got a coach in Sean McVay who just extremely dumbed down that terminology and that language. And you saw what he was able to do with that additional confidence. I think you can look at a guy like Josh Allen and sort of make that same equation.
Okay. Now, so you talk about we all know the inconsistencies in the footwork and stuff. I think my issue with a guy that has those inconsistencies and is a rookie, it's a two-sided issue, right? I don't know that you can teach. I know that Jordan Palmer's worked with him to improve on that footwork. It definitely showed up a little bit in shorts, right? It showed up in the Senior Bowl a little bit. Yep. Is there enough time span between when he's working on that this summer through preseason to week one to really correct those issues when NFL defenses are sending you exotic man zone schemes that you haven't seen yet? Because that's where I think you start reverting back to that stuff if it's not muscle memory totally honed in. And the twofold of that is if he starts resorting back to some of the stuff that he did in college and relying too much on his upper body strength and his arm, he's not going to be able to get away with that stuff at the next level with elite cornerbacks and players everywhere. So part one of this question is, can you get that in time for week one in a place where you feel comfortable he's not going to resort back? And then two, how does that affect his confidence if he does resort back and makes the mistakes that we're all fearing that he will if he plays the way he did in college?
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're great points because they're all legitimate concerns with his game. I do think if you have one aspect of your game that could be maybe the most easily correctable, it is footwork. You can't really teach or correct arm strength. It's very, very difficult to reteach proper arm mechanics. And it's very, very difficult for guys who have elongated releases to all of a sudden become quick throwers. Processing speed is another thing that you think can come with the game. So those two things, the processing speed and footwork, those are going to be the two biggest hurdles for Josh Allen. But I think maybe the two biggest areas where that can be maybe the most easily coached with the right coaching.
Do you think that can happen in a summer? I'm not expecting he'll be an all-pro, but I'm saying, can it?
I think and what we have to do as well is sort of ask ourselves what he was asked to do in college and how much was it harped on him in college.
Right.
How important was the footwork to his passing offense in college? And I would probably argue that it wasn't. It was a vertical type scheme. When you're looking in the NFL, where a lot of your footwork is based off the timing of where the receivers are going to be. So it's extremely important to be precise with footwork. This offense, not as precise as it would have been in the last year's offense, where footwork was a huge thing. And that's why, again, Nathan Peterman made a lot of sense. Is it correctable within the next few months to become a very different player week one? I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but it's definitely something over the next 2 or 3 years that will become muscle memory for him and will become, and again, it's going to be how it's taught, because in this offense, if it's taught that the ball needs to be thrown on a post route on the 5th step and it's not thrown, then you're going to start to see timing issues. You're going to start to see balls that are intercepted. And I think ultimately, whoever they decide to start the season, whenever they turn to Josh Allen, it needs to be Josh Allen. It can't be what the Browns did last year with Deshaun Kaiir. That's how you ruin a quarterback. You don't ruin a quarterback by playing him too early. You ruin a quarterback by playing him too early and then yanking him because he's not ready. You need to be extremely careful if you're Sean McDermott, because this isn't Brandon Beane's decision. Brandon Beane's job is done. Brandon Beane got their quarterback. It's now up to Brian Daboll and Sean McDermott to get the most out of Josh Allen and decide when he's going to be ready. That decision has really probably nothing to do with Brandon Beane. So
you don't think that a guy can come in and say he gets start week one and in the first month of the season is just atrocious football and he's throwing the ball everywhere. You don't think that type of thing can ruin a quarterback, of starting him too early and his confidence just being shaken? Do you believe in confidence being able to be shaken and ruin a player, or are you not buying into that?
I think nowadays, and Louis Riddick said this, and I just wholeheartedly agree with him from ESPN. And he talked about how today's NFL offenses are so quarterback friendly, and a lot of these systems are built for quarterbacks who don't have the processing speed. A lot of what offenses are built around are built around shortcomings of quarterbacks that Josh Allen doesn't have. He doesn't have those shortcomings, the lack of arm strength, the ability to throw the football over a defense. Like, some of those things coaches have to prepare for. You don't have to do that with Josh Allen. What you have to prepare for is how to slow it down for him. And he's going to show early whether or not he's ready for that.
Sure.
It would be a gross disservice to say he's not ready, but he gives us the best chance to win and put him out there.
Yeah.
If he gives them the best chance to win, and he at least can go out there and run what you're asking him to run, and you're dumbing down the offense. You're running a lot of college concepts, a lot of spread, a lot of RPO. This is a guy that I don't think is going to get rattled very easily. Like, this is a guy that, took a lot of hits in college. Not only that, but played for a program that wasn't good and brought them to a level of respectability. And I think a lot of those things go into that. And whether this player can ultimately be the starter from day one, I have no idea. Sure. But what I do know is he has the tools to be. It's going to be whether or not those tools are refined enough to be the week one starter. I have a lot of questions about it, but I think in terms of the other guys in the roster, it's going to be hard to keep him off the field.
Yeah, and I do think if he gets in, one thing I'm pretty certain of is they're going to really cut the field in half for him. And
no doubt.
If it's man, look here. If it's zone, look here. Otherwise, bail. Don't try to get too fancy. Here's your quick reads. The nice thing is, no matter who's at quarterback, we're going to have a run-heavy scheme. So that's going to help any of these guys.
Well, and with the Erhard Perkins offense, I mean, this was traditionally in the 1970s when it was run by the New England Patriots. It was pass to score, run to win. Like that was the concept behind this. It's very different now. The way that the offense works now, it is really probably run to score, pass. Well, really it's pass to score, pass to win. That's like where that offense is based. I don't think that's going to be how it works under Brian Daboll, but I do think that considering where the offense is in today's NFL, you look at the Patriots, how they're running it. They maybe do it better than anybody else about moving their personnel around and creating mismatches, but they're throwing 45, 50 times a game. The Bills aren't going to do that.
But they're always most successful when they have the strong running game. And you've seen that over the last few years of putting a precedent on getting as many of those guys in as they can. Because it does take the pressure off the quarterback. And I think in order for any of these guys to be successful, you're going to have that. So with Allen now, so you're saying that, what was the saying you said? If he's not, just because he's the best, if he's not ready, don't put him in?
Right. Because there's a good I think right now, on paper, he gives you the best opportunity to win football games.
Just walking in the door, he's the best quarterback.
Walking in the door, I think he's the best quarterback in the building. But that doesn't mean he's the guy. Right.
Yeah. That's the difference between a first rounder and a couple of fifth round guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, since we've really sort of hit my last prong, which is ability, I just think in terms of ability and talent, athleticism, he's the guy walking in the door. When he walks in the door, he's going to be the most talented quarterback on this roster. Whether or not he's ready is a totally other argument and a totally other discussion. But so you're talking about those three things. We talked about having a lack of nuanced wide receivers, having the ability is what we're talking about, and having the offense in this system that is dumbed down. The one other area that I really see being an issue for this team is offensive line play this year. Obviously, Richie Incognito retired. We don't know what his deal is, whether or not he'll be here for training camp. We don't know. I would guess not. Eric Wood, done, retired. Your franchise center is gone. So knowing that they brought in Russell Bodine to likely be the starting center for this year, you've got Jordan Mills and Marshall Newhouse sort of fight it out for the right tackle position. No idea what's going on at the left guard position. Vlad Ducasse at the right guard, I guess. Okay, but here we are sitting in a position where who plays quarterback is really going to determine how this offense can function, knowing that they don't have a great offensive line and the run game is going to be stifled at times. Teams are going to put 8 in the box. They did last year, and it hurt them. It hurt their ability to be an effective running team. So knowing that whoever's going to be at quarterback is likely going to be running for his life. That's just the reality of it. That whoever's back there is going to need to make plays on the run. Neither of those guys, in AJ McCarron or Nathan Peterman, is putting any fear into the defense of creating or being able to escape a cluttered and a muddy pocket. That is what Josh Allen did better than maybe just about anybody in the country last year. He has just so much like Carson Wentz inside the pocket, where he's able to maneuver inside the pocket, make off-balance throws, make throws while guys are trying to drag him down. He's got a lot of Roethlisberger in him in that he can stay in the pocket, have physical players around him, and there be a cluttered pocket and still thrive and still be able to complete passes. The other two guys, not a lot of examples on film where you're going to see a pocket breaking down and them be able to throw when they can't set their feet. And that goes for me being who's going to give this team the better opportunity to win. This is maybe the most important point, is this offensive line really is going to make things difficult for Nathan Peterman and AJ McCarron.
One, this will have to be another topic when we discuss the offensive line. I don't think they're going to be that much worse than they were a year ago, but I don't think they were that good a year ago.
Correct. I don't think they were that good. Yeah.
Their stats and stuff show up really well, but I don't think they were great. But not to that point, I think when I hear you say that, one of my concerns would be is I see what you're saying. In college, he was able to do those things, run around, make those plays. I agree with you that he is the most athletic. He's a superior athlete to the other two. But does that make it more difficult to come in and do all the other things like we talked about, keep the footwork, the mental processing side, because things are going to speed up. There's going to be exotic looks, exotic blitzes. He's already going to be running around a little bit in a base look, right? Like guys are going to beat up our offensive line in base look. So when you start getting into exotic stuff, is that just going to make it more challenging to process the NFL game? And will that in turn lead to some of that worry of low confidence because he's just getting beat up week in and week out?
Yeah, I think whoever's back there, though, they're going to get beat up. And there's no doubt about it. They're going to take hits. But where I wonder, and this is why I look to Elam a little bit, is who will likely be able to thrive in a scenario where the play called breaks down.
Right.
And that was always Tyrod's money. That was his money zone. Okay. When the play broke down and he had to move outside the pocket, he could use his feet to create. He could keep his eyes downfield, make a good, accurate ball downfield as well. To me, Josh Allen's the only guy that, and you know what, this can go both ways. And I want to make sure that I say this because a lot of people will say, well, Nate, why do you want him out there to get killed by a lackluster offensive line? Well, I just think at the end of the day, whoever's going to be back there is going to take some hits this year.
Sure.
And to me, I want the guy that when the play breaks down, that they tend to be at their best. And when the play broke down, AJ McCarron panicked.
Yeah, he's not great. Yeah.
Panicked. And you saw a lot of times in film. There was a pick six on film that somebody posted the videos on Twitter where he just he had a little bit of problems at his feet. He shuffled his feet and he doesn't have the ability to throw the ball when somebody's at his feet. Either does Nate Peterman. Allen does. And whether or not you think that can translate from the pro game to the NFL game because guys are faster and stronger, I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if he's being charged at by a Mountain West player or by an AFC West player, sure, as long as he's able to use that athleticism, which he's going to have. I think he needs to put some beef on those bones because he's taken a lot of hard hits. He's had that nasty shoulder injury and the broken collarbone. So he's got some stuff where you worry. But at the end of the day, who's the guy that can thrive when everything goes wrong? And I think that's where Josh Allen got drafted, is because he showed that when things went wrong, he was still able to elevate the players and elevate the offense around him.
Yeah, and that's a good, when you talk about putting some beef on your bones, one of my biggest concerns in watching Allen is when the play does break down, if he does go past the line of scrimmage, he's really got to learn how to slide, protect himself. He's not going to be able to get away with the stuff that he went,
Agreed.
He already broke that collarbone just going down with his shoulder. He's not a fullback. He doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. Right. We saw it with DJ Manuel when he was coming along. He just, for some reason, could not figure out how to slide. I don't know if he ever played baseball or not, but he just could not seem to figure it out.
And even when he tried to slide, it was like the ugliest forced thing I've ever seen. I'm like, what are you doing?
Just drop, fall.
Do something. I don't know.
So that's another thing he has to learn. So I agree with you that he has that ability to do that. I look at all the things that you're saying that he has the ability to do, and the places that we know that he needs work. And I just get really concerned when the live bullets are flying at him, if it's just too much to put on him right now. And I understand the Bills want to win now and we want to win now. I've already thought this season's going to be a little bit of a regression going into it.
Yeah.
So with that in my mind, obviously my job's not on the line to win games, but that's kind of one of the reasons why I don't mind the idea of riding AJ McCarron as long as possible, because I hate to sound insensitive to him as a person. This is nothing personal, but I'm okay if he struggles or gets rocked, or you know what you're saying, where I don't want that with the future to be to hurt or displace that confidence in any way. I want to nurture Josh Allen into the process. I agree.
I just and I'd love to go back and try to find that Louis Riddick sound talking about like the idea that you can ruin a player, because you can, but it's, I think that terminology of ruining a quarterback by playing him too soon, I think that is an old mindset.
Okay.
You look at these first round picks, most of them aren't getting the luxury of sitting for multiple years or even a year. I mean, you go back to Carson Wentz was that guy. I mean, he was the number 2 pick in that draft, and they went out and paid Chase Daniel. Basically, like Arizona went and paid Sam Bradford. They went and paid Chase Daniel to be their starter. And by the time training camp came and went, I think Carson Wentz walked into the facility at the start of training camp and was the best player, but everyone was like, okay, it's going to be Chase Daniel. That's just the way it is. And then a week before the season started, it was so obvious that he was better. Right. So obvious that I think it comes to a point where the other guys in the team, if they know that, and they know that that player gives you the best opportunity to win, and you're a coach and you don't put him out there, I don't know. Sean McDermott's shown the brass balls, the willingness to say, you know what, we're in the thick of a playoff race. We're on the road against a really difficult defense and maybe the hottest team in football. Put my rookie quarterback in. Rookie, right. 5th round pick. Okay. So that's another thing that you could even add as a pill in there. A coach with some balls, right, who's willing to make and maybe maybe make the move that the players maybe were maybe not wanting or maybe wanting, but I think he knows the pulse of his locker room. And I think that move to away from Tyrod to Nathan Peterman, although you look at guys like Shady McCoy who weren't super supportive of the move, I think all of them probably knew it was coming. I think all of them probably, some of them felt maybe another guy's going to give us a better opportunity to be a more successful passing offense. So, listen, if this was the Rick Dennison offense of last year, AJ McCarron he's starting probably every game unless he's hurt.
Yeah.
But this offense is different. What Brian Daboll is going to ask, this offense is going to be built around Josh Allen. So who's going to do what Josh Allen does better, Josh Allen or AJ McCarron or Nathan Peterman?
Right. Now, so you touched on the coaching staff, and this is something I've seen brought up on Twitter, and I don't really know outside of Daboll. I know they have, Cully is the quarterback's coach and converted wide receivers coach. Do you think that they need the quote unquote quarterback whisperer?
Yes, they should hire Jordan Palmer.
Yeah. I mean, if they were going to do that, you'd think they would
probably have done that. Yeah.
Probably have done that, right? So with the current staff, assuming we don't get Palmer to come in here, with the current staff, do you feel comfortable with them being able to really take this guy who's a really raw piece of clay and get him molded into this position? Or do you not trust outside of Daboll?
I have no reason to not trust him. I would like to see them go get a guy like Jordan Palmer, who's already worked with him and who's already has a lot of nice things to say, great reviews, and maybe he wants to get into coaching. I'm not sure. I think he wants to be a tutor.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I think I would love for them just to bring in a guy to work with Josh Allen,
even as a consultant, private consultant or something.
But he's going to get that work in with Palmer in the offseason when he's away from the team, and maybe that'll be enough. But I am not in the category where I'm not going to trust this coaching staff as long as they don't give me a reason not to. And I think Brian Daboll has never really had the type of quarterback that he's going to have with Josh Allen. At the closest, who was his best quarterback in the NFL? Matt Moore?
Right.
I can't, you know what I'm saying? He hasn't really had the type of player that Josh Allen is. So I'm going to give him an opportunity. I'm going to give their quarterbacks coach Cully an opportunity here to really try to form and mold this player into what they think he can be. And it's up to them, obviously, but I'm not going into the season thinking that they need to go get another quarterbacks coach or something until I'm proven that they do.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Now let's, so we talked a lot about Josh Allen. We're going to probably talk about him all through the summer here. We're going to spend a ton of time talking about Josh Allen because it's, what everybody wants to everyone wants to hear. But we got one question from our Slack channel. So again, if you're a premium member, you get invited to the Slack channel where you can communicate with some of the contributors that cover one and just have conversations about football. And Eric will post some stuff he's working on a little bit behind the scenes of what he's doing. So that's pretty cool stuff that he does there. But in the Slack channel, we had kind of a question here, kind of relating to what you were talking about. Let's talk about these other guys a little bit. One guy, let's see here. Tyler, I believe. Tyler Stiegel asks, or I think it was Tyler. I'll have to find, but I think it was Tyler asked about if Nate Peterman will be on the roster at the end of training camp.
Unless they bring in another arm. If they bring in like Derek Anderson.
Or it was our friend Garrison. Sorry.
Oh, it was Garrison. Okay. So if they brought in like Derek Anderson, or they brought in another veteran player, then I think he'd have a lot of trouble. And I still think he might have trouble, but I don't think they're going to keep two quarterbacks with knowing that they've still got Josh Allen around. I think three quarterbacks will be the minimum. That's why I do think this is a big training camp for Nathan Peterman. There's no doubt about it. It's a big training camp. If I had to put in percentages, the guys that I think likely have a chance to be the starter, I'd probably put 50% on AJ McCarron, 40% on Josh Allen, and 10% on Nathan Peterman.
No, we know what happened with Nathan Peterman last year. We don't have to run through the past. Do you think a guy like that, putting in the work, do you still think that there is a salvageable, not great, but good, mediocre? I mean, that's where I always thought his ceiling really was a really good backup, Matt Moore type quarterback. Do you think that's still salvageable for Nathan Peterman's
No doubt.
career?
I still think he can be that player. There's no doubt about it. The confidence thing has to come around, though, because he can't let what happened last year bury the rest of his career, which he could very, very easily do. Like, it's not a difficult thing to do in this situation. Having said that, he might have the weakest arm in the league. in terms of guys that are in camps. And he does other things really well to compensate. But at the end of the day, it's noticeable when he's on the field. There's just no two ways about it. He looks like he's throwing a different size football.
Yeah, no, I agree. It would be nice though, like if he was able to overcome what happened last year, because McCarron's on a 2-year deal, right? So again, I hate to sound like I don't care about the human in this, but his success doesn't really. It would be great if he had some success and we could use him as a trade chip, but I don't think of McCarron outside of a 2-year window, maybe even a 1-year window. So it'd be nice if Nathan Peterman could fit that
turn
role
into that,
of a backup guy, like because Josh Allen's still going to need a backup. So it'd be nice if he can fit that role, hang on the team, make it through roster cuts this summer. I would hate to lose that type of developmental prospect and just bring in a veteran guy because it's better today as a backup versus continuing to develop Nathan Peterman. So hopefully, to answer Garrison's question on my end, I hope that Nathan Peterman is able to make steps forward and show the coaching staff that he is still that developmental backup guy that can be the backup for a long time. It'd be great to have, a Van Pelt type backup here for the next 10 years. I would love that. Let's see. We got some other questions here. Garrison again asks, can AJ McCarron lead this team?
I think so. Eric and I did a film breakdown, which you can check out, cover1.net. It's about a month or so ago. Yeah. I got a lot of questions about whether or not he can be, start 16 games and be a playoff caliber quarterback, be a mid-tier starter. I think if he's leading your team, you got problems. But I do think where I think I'm stuck on him, right where I'm stuck on Nathan Peterman, is the arm just doesn't scare people. You have to be so precise with your timing that you can't be late on anything. And in this league, how you improv almost it means more than how you perform within the confines of an offense, because you need to be able to make a play to extend a play on third down, and sometimes you're not going to be able to do that with the play that's called. So that's what worries me, is once he gets outside of the pocket, he's almost worthless. He just doesn't have the arm strength to throw across his body, much less to make dart throws on the run, especially moving away to his left, away from his strong side. So can he lead this team? This team? Probably not. Could he lead? I don't know. Who's the best roster? I don't know. Could he lead the Rams offense to 10, 11 wins? Probably. Could he lead this offense to 10, 11 wins? I don't know.
Yeah, and you hear a lot of people say, like, well, he can't be worse than Tyrod, right? Like, Tyrod gets a lot of knacks, but kind of like what you were saying, though, when the play breaks down, Tyrod's one of the best in the league the last few years of making something out of nothing. I mean, that is actually the only place where Tyrod really succeeded last year, was making those completely ridiculous throws that you're like, wow, like that's why he's special. That's why he should be in. It was the simple stuff that he couldn't do with any consistency. So to that argument, when people say, well, if this was a team that made the playoffs with Tyrod, all McCarron has to do is be a little bit better than that. He doesn't have the ability to pull out some of the plays that extended drives were game-changing plays, those big plays that Tyrod was able to make that really won some games. So I think a guy like McCarron comes in, you really got to expect absolute mediocrity.
Yeah.
Not because of him. It's not a knock on McCarron. It's really a knock on what I think the whole roster is just a mediocre unit right now. So I think McCarron's the kind of guy, like you said, you put him on a team, a really good team like the Rams. Yeah, sure, he can get them to the playoffs just by being mediocre. But with the lack of talent that we have, mediocre is going to give you mediocre results. You're not going to get any better than that. I don't have any questions about him being able to lead the team, though, as far as a man in a room with a locker room and that thing. I think he actually has all those intangibles, and that is one of the reasons that the Bills felt good bringing him in towards the end of free agency. So,
yeah, he's very much a McDermott guy. Very much a McDermott guy, and I think that's why he's here. But in terms of leadership, I don't think there's any question. He's sort of exactly the kind of guy they want to bring in. I just don't know whether or not he's going to be the type that can lead them on the field to much of anything.
Yeah, no, I agree. But in the rare case that we're totally wrong, because I don't know about you, but I'm rarely wrong. Actually, I'm pretty sure I agreed with the idea to start Peterman last year on a podcast. So,
well, what were you gonna do? Disagree? Come on.
Yeah, sweep that under the rug. Our buddy Mike Crow, again in the Slack channel, asks on the if McCarron has a very successful 1 to 2 year stint with the Bills as a starter, and Allen is progressing as well. At what point does Allen get handed the rope? So say McCarron comes out and it is just lights out. He's got a chip on his shoulder, wants to prove the world wrong, and he comes out, starts winning games. Allen's progressing at the same time. He's your future. Where's that handoff?
So that's a good question. I mean, even Brett Favre had a shelf life, and Brett Favre went to a NFC Championship game 2 years after
shelf life, after
they got him out of there and brought in Aaron Rodgers. So listen, this is their guy, Josh Allen. They drafted him for a reason. It would take an extraordinary 2 years from AJ McCarron. It would take an extraordinary year, and then he would have to be lighting the world on fire for every single week. It would be a Case Keenum in Minnesota type situation where every week the coach
Nick
would
Foles year.
Right. They'd be looking for so would the fan base. They'd be looking for every single opportunity to bench him or to see the other guy. And I just don't think it would be a healthy. Listen, if it happens, I'd love that problem.
Right.
I don't know that we're going to ever get to that point.
Yeah, it'd be a great problem to have, right? And be the first time I can remember of having 2 quarterbacks that you had to actually be like, wow, man,
right.
I can't wait to play both of them. I think what you said is right. He has to have an incredible year one. It can't just be, to me, it can't be somewhere in between 8 and 10 wins and they sneak into the playoffs again. To me, it has to be, they're competing.
9 wins, 10 wins. He's got 30 touchdowns, 335 to 4,000 yards.
Right. He's
not
playing,
turning the ball over.
And it has to be in that first year. And because that second year is a big deal, right? Because if he's good that first year, you can move him as a trade chip.
Sure.
Possibly to a needy team. So that adds value. But if he doesn't do it that first year, I don't think he makes it a second year.
I agree.
Anyway, so I think he's really, I know you say that Allen can come in and be the starter. I think AJ's got a quarter of the season this year to prove who he is. I think that the Bills would like him to be good so that they could potentially trade him. Or that
just so they don't have to rush Allen.
Yes, it's an insurance policy. So I think he's at least got a quarter of the season to get there. But I'm not super concerned about a good 2-year run from McCarron and handing it off. And I think it's the 1 year max anyway, where McCarron has a good year. They're going to move on from him and try to get assets back and put Allen in the next year. I don't think Allen sits for more than a year. I think that's the max. End of this season, if he hasn't been named the starter by then, he's going to be the starter in the 2019 season.
Yeah, no question.
Either way. So that's the end of that. If you guys have any questions for us in the chat room, it's not Russian tonight like I was hoping it would be, but feel free to send those in. Let's see. I think we had one more from Garrison here. So you kind of hit on it a little bit before, but we were under the lens of Josh Allen versus talking about the other guys. Do you think that McCarron is good at what Daboll wants to do in this offense? I know you said the offense is going to be catered around Josh Allen, but do you think that they can, if they have to run with him for a quarter of the season, do you feel comfortable that he can do what they want in the system?
Yeah. I don't see any reason to doubt that he can't execute the things that Brian Daboll is going to ask him to do. It's going to be whether or not he does them to a level that helps them win football games. Like, I think he's a very serviceable player. I think he's going to come in and do everything they ask him to do, and I think he's going to do it pretty darn well. But considering the talent around him, I just think what he's going to be able to bring is going to be stifled a little bit in terms of he really needs a lot of other things going really well around him. He needs to have an AJ Green. He doesn't have AJ Green on this roster. Okay. He doesn't have a Tyler Eifert on this roster. He doesn't, the offensive line, say what you will, but I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting question. And there's a lot of what ifs with AJ McCarron because we just don't know. He doesn't have this track record. I mean, we could go back and look at his junior season when he threw for 30 some touchdowns and 3 interceptions, but it's college and he didn't need his arm straight. He's throwing Julio Jones. He's throwing Amari Cooper. Like these guys, maybe not Amari Cooper, but like a plethora of
Alabama
top-end
players,
talent.
Yeah.
You don't have that here. So those weaknesses that he does have and does show on film, they're going to be amplified when the clock starts and the games start and the players around him, simply put, aren't the top kind of talent that he's been used to playing with, at least in Cincinnati and certainly in Alabama.
Sure. But to play devil's advocate on that a little bit, I do think McDermott being a defensive coach, and I do think that defense can take another step forward this year.
I think they will, no doubt. I think they've gotten better.
I hope so, because we talked about it podcast ago that stretch of November was some of the worst football I've ever seen in my life. And we talk about how good the defense was throughout the year, but we often forget that stretch really wasn't good either side of the ball. So if they can just be consistent throughout the year, take that next step forward. I don't know that McDermott thinks you need to have an elite quarterback to win. I think he's talked about it before, and I think that maybe they think AJ McCarron can do just enough as long as the defense creates turnovers, creates third down opportunities, keeps the ball. As long as he is that game manager, that is going to be good enough for the Bills, that they don't need to be wowed.
And I think even maybe that's another token on another whatever you want to call it for Josh Allen, because they have a very opportunistic defense. This is a defense that turned the ball over at a really remarkable rate, especially that first quarter, that first half of the season. And then you mentioned the rails kind of coming off the tracks there, but they have a very opportunistic defense. And if they've got a guy like Josh Allen who might be turning the ball over, which I think there's no doubt he will, you might feel okay about that because you know that you have a good defense, an improved defense. It's going to turn the ball over and get it back to the offense. So vice versa there, you can see it as they won't have to worry about making too many plays offensively because they're going to be in a lot of close 1-2 score games. At the same time, maybe you have a defense that will be willing to let your offense get a little bit more aggressive and a young player to get more aggressive.
Yeah, and I think this comes down to a conversation too that gets tossed around on Twitter, tossed around in the media a little bit, where turnovers. And I'm not scared to have my quarterback get interceptions. I used to hate the stat get thrown out about Tyrod all the time of, well, Tyrod doesn't throw interceptions, because there was times where I wish he would just throw the ball up and either get the pass interference and interception or whatever, try to make a play. It's okay to try to make a play once in a while. So I do see that, and I just don't know, where do you think they tend to run conservative under Coach McDermott so far, and maybe Daboll's not. Where do you see them being on that line? Are they okay with interceptions, do you think? Or they really want that game manager, no turnover? Obviously, everybody in a perfect world, you don't want turnovers, but
listen, they had a game manager. They had a game manager, and they benched him. They had a guy that didn't throw interceptions. They had the guy with the first best, touchdown interception ratio in the NFL history, and they still benched him because he wasn't making the plays they wanted, but the willingness, it had to be there, and it wasn't with Tyrod. And listen, Cleveland fans are going to find out real soon. They've got tons of incredible weapons in that offense, and when he's not willing to throw it to them, it's going to be frustrating. And that's what happened here. I mean, simply put, everybody really liked Tyrod as a player on and off the field. It was just that willingness, and Allen's got it. I think AJ McCarron has it, but the willingness has to meet the talent. Because if because you're a willing thrower and you're willing to, just because I'm willing to run out in the middle of the street doesn't mean that I should, and then I'm going to beat the traffic.
I've read your Twitter before, and a few people have suggested.
That's true.
That you do.
That is true. And you know what? It's sort of like, should I wear cargo shorts to the water park? Well, of course you should wear cargo shorts to the water park because you'll be able to fit a lot of stuff in your pockets, but just don't go in the water with all the stuff in your pockets.
Sure. Yeah, no doubt. So Eyeball Billy here talks about how I said, I think that they're going to cut the field in half a little bit for him. I think that's a great thing to do for a rookie young guy to help him assimilate to the NFL. But he asks, how long will this be a strategy for a guy like Allen? Till he doesn't need it.
So I think maybe that the term cutting off the field gets overused, and maybe sort of just gets like a very base meaning. It's not very specific. Will they cut off the field and make more 1, 2, 3 reads rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reads? Probably. But the way you do that is by rollouts. You move around. You're not really going to cut the field off when he's sitting back there in the pocket. You're going to try to give him as many options as possible. The area I see them really utilizing is where you saw Frank Reich and Doug Peterson last year with Nick Foles, is a lot of those RPOs, a lot of those trying to put the defenders in difficult spots, knowing that you have a quarterback with incredible athleticism and the ability to throw the ball quickly. Those two aspects are big when you're talking about running quarterback in an RPO. So RPO, I think you're going to see a lot of. I think you're going to see a ton of it. Whether or not you're going to see a lot of them cutting half the field and how long they'll do that, I think they'll do it. Certainly at first they're going to simplify things, but I would think gradually they're going to add more complex concepts because they're going to want different ways to beat the defense. And that's the thing when you're talking about, well, that team really only does a couple plays really well. They're a very easy team to defend. And that's just team A. I'm not using the Bills as an example here. I'm just saying a team that does only a couple things really well, but does them really well and uses them effectively. That team is much easier to defend than a team like the Patriots, who their number one receiver one week might be their fifth receiver the next week. Sure. And that's just kind of how it goes. It doesn't matter how good you are. So I don't know. Will the field be cut off to start? Sure. But I think gradually as he goes on, I would suspect that the field opens up for him. Where they're going to baby him in is in the RPO system, I think.
Yeah. And when I talk about the field getting cut in half, I'm just saying too, and guys that are still elite quarterbacks, their offenses still do this because it's sometimes easy. Like Brady's talked about it, and Josh McDaniels has talked about it. Of Brady still has reads, right? Yeah. And it's if he sees zone, he knows where he's going with the ball, and it just slows down the game for a guy like that. And that's what I think they're going to do with Allen. Is hey, zone, go here. Yeah, like you have these limited amount of options. Don't get too fancy. If you don't see it, throw it away or make a play.
And what he's going to see way more too in the NFL compared to the college is he's going to see way more dual coverages. He's going to see more backside cover 2, front side cover 4. He's going to see quarter, half. He's going to see defenses that he doesn't necessarily know what to do with. So in a situation where you've got a cover 2 front side and a cover 4 to the field. So let's say short side of the field, cover 2, the side of the field where you've got the hash market, you've got the sidelines, you got the most opportunity to work. Obviously, where you want to take advantage of is in that cover 4 with the field. You've got more room to work, but there's going to be situations where in his headset before the play call or before the clock starts and he's able to still hear from his coach, he's going to hear, well, let's go backside here on this cover 2. Let's cut the field off. And those are going to be the situations where you see him get the field cut off. But to start a play, the only time you're really going to cut the field in half is when you're rolling a player. So it's a lot of people mix that up. Like, well, what does that really mean? Cut the field in half. Well, it can mean a lot of things. It can mean that they're cutting it off by running him to the left or right and really giving and
actual
really
half the
narrowing down his options. Or are you saying, hey, based on this defense, we want to stay on this side of the field?
Yeah. And that's where I see, hey, if this is the look you get, the play is designed to have these two, a zone beater, maybe a man beater, or whatever, a cover 4 beater, whatever you see, go to the beater. And
not only that, he's going to come in with a couple of routes that he throws just so beautifully. That post route, the double post concept, is going to be something you see in Buffalo. There's no doubt about it because he throws it so well. In the smash concept, I think he throws a tremendous corner, a tremendous smash concept. And I would think both of those things carry over to the NFL.
Yeah, and another thing that plays well to Allen, maybe to add your peg of the receivers, Eric did an article about Curly's catch radius, and you've talked about multiple times about Benjamin's catch radius, and we know Zay's got a decent catch radius when he catches the football. That it's a decent catch radius, and that's only going to add to, we all have the accuracy concerns with Allen. That's only going to improve those. Well, he does have accuracy issues. I mean, very few times is he throwing the ball at the tents, in training camp. It's accuracy off by a certain amount of margin or something.
Leading a guy compared to having it hit their back shoulder compared to their front shoulder.
Sure. And some of these receivers can make up for that. So that kind of leads me into your content. When's that article drop, man?
So you can check it out tomorrow. I'm still got some tweaks to make to it tonight, and I'm struggling between whether or not I want to make this 5 reasons why Josh Allen will start more games in 2018 than the other 2 quarterbacks, or 4, because I feel like I could do 10, but I'll try to keep it to the 4 or 5. But that'll be out tomorrow morning. You can catch it up by cover1.net. I'll be tweeting it out at Nate Geary WGR. I'm sure Eric will be out doing that as well, so make sure you check it out.
You got any other content coming out this week, or just doing your normal?
Just the normal, man. I'm reeling back after the draft. I'm gonna get some golf in. I'm gonna do some drinking.
Some sun, would you?
I know. I could do some sun drinking. I could really. I don't know if you see how pale I was.
Yeah, It's all right.
I'm like translucent. You see the pink behind me? It's very close.
Yeah, it is close. Match it up for a color palette. So.
Oh God.
But so everybody stay tuned because we do have a ton of content coming out of Cover One. I don't really have anything coming out right now except for the podcast. I've kind of pulled back on the content except for the graphics that I helped do. So just run the podcast. So make sure you go out, subscribe to the podcast, get on that because we're doing it weekly. We're going to run through every position group here coming up. So we got a lot to discuss. There's a lot of interesting, we were talking in the Slack channel about the wide receivers and running backs and the long list there and how that's going to all shake out this summer. Those are conversations that Nate and I, and hopefully when we get Eric in here, he's been working a lot, but get him back in here, we can kind of shake out those conversations along with you guys in the chat box. One thing that Eric's doing that I didn't mention before on the premium membership, guys, it's super cool. We've been talking about it for a little while. I'm not sure the time and date yet that he's doing it, but he's going to do a film session with premium subscribers where you can come in and do a live film session with some Cover One contributors and just kind of get that behind the scenes of what it is like to watch and break down film, because we all see the finished product, the Tremaine Edmonds video or stuff like that, the different YouTube videos that you guys have done together, the breakdowns, but really breaking down how you watch film. And it's something I've asked Eric to do a few times because I'm just amazed at watching and how do you break down this defense. He's going to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit and break that down for premium subscribers.
Not only that, I think what's really fun about that is when Eric and I do film, there's always this tendency where we bounce off each other. Well, like Eric will say, hey, I'm seeing this. I'm like, okay, yeah, I see that too. Here's my thought on it. What's nice about something like that is that you have people who have really sort of an unbiased eye, who can come in and say, hey, and maybe not understand something. And it sort of leads to more underlying things about watching film that you just don't see if you're just a random guy. I mean, I learned how to watch film in college. Like I learned how from my coach who was a Division I coach, and he showed me how to watch film and how to break down and what to look for and how to be critical, but also how to be, be critical, but how do you turn that critical play into development, right? How do you develop from something critical? So it's always fun, especially if you like to watch film, to hear how people do it, because everybody does it differently. When especially if you've done it for a long time, you watch film based on somebody that taught you before. So it's really awesome, and I hope we can get that done, because that sounds like a great sounds like some great hashtag content.
Yeah, it's a super cool opportunity because there is a lot of things you can watch and stuff like that, but it's really cool to get hands on and do it. And I know I'm going to try to jump in there and just learn as much as I can, because I think it'll change the way that I watch the game. And I don't know about you guys out there, but I don't want to become a know-it-all fan, but I do want to enjoy something that I love more. I always want
not only that, but especially like when you're watching a game, when you're watching a football game, most of the time you're tanked. But let's talk about an away game for a second. When you're watching the game from the broadcast angle, where should you be focused on in the broadcast angle? What should you be looking for defensively? Things like that. And that might change the way you watch a game. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, so super cool. So head over to cover1.net and check out the premium subscriptions. I'm telling you guys, it's worth it. He's added all that the Josh Allen video content. So we're always adding stuff to that premium subscription. Guys get stuff first. Some of the really heavy content we don't release to the public until the premium subscribers have got a chance to digest it. So definitely get over there and do that. And like Nate said earlier, get that app, man. I use the app, and I don't always know when the guys were posting so much content that I always know when people are doing stuff. So it lets me know, and I'm reading on the fly. I'm a stay-at-home dad, so sometimes the kid's distracted and I can whip out the phone, read an article real quick. Definitely makes my days go by a little bit faster, getting my Bills news delivered directly to me. So definitely check that out. But that's it for the show today, guys. I'm Aaron Quinn. You can find me at Aaron Quinn 716. With me, as always, my good friend Nate Geary. Nate Geary WGR, right? That's your handle. So go follow us. We're always down to talk Bills or cargo shorts or about Nate running into the street.
And you know what? I always tweet back. So tweet at me, and I'll make sure that I talk some crap back to you.
Absolutely. So don't forget to tune in next week, guys. Same time, same place. Go get on the YouTube page so you can get involved in the chat, and we'll catch you next week with a different position group. Thanks, guys.